She resolved not to doubt Gagarin so much anymore. Seeing the closeness the pair had developed, Everly felt a little jealous. A man clad in raven-black armor, the surface of which had lost its luster, perhaps due to being melted, and a masked demon wearing a suit that was somewhat torn after being slashed up. They were two beings fighting a life-or-death battle in a realm that transcended human capability. But to Everly, they almost looked like pals. You truly are powerful. You too, Jaldabaoth. So how about this? I have a suggestion. Momon said nothing, but gestured with his chin that he should continue. I'll take my leave about now. Shall we call this a good duel and both withdraw? No, to propose more precisely, I will withdraw for now. So I'd like you to not follow in pursuit. You can play games with us. Everly screamed with rage. After sowing this much confusion and death throughout the city, forgiveness was way too much to ask. But in a quiet voice, Momon acquiesced to Jaldabaoth's suggestions. Sure, Everly's eyes widened under her mask, and she looked at him. She couldn't comprehend why he would cave to Jaldabaoth's proposal while he was ahead. Perhaps sensing her confusion, Jaldabaoth shrugged and said sheesh. As much as it pained her, he looked good doing it, so tall and slender. I have no idea why Mr. Momon brought such a stupid woman with him. If you think a little bit, Don T, you understand why he took my offer. Everly was mute as he continued. Your friends have been fighting desperately to send in Mr. Momon and keep his battle from being interrupted, have they not? Aha. So that's why no demons intervened in our battle. Do you really believe that? Everly felt like she'd been stabbed in the back with an icicle. I have a demon mob standing by to attack the entire city at any time. Oh no. Marquis Revan's men were patrolling the city, but she didn't think they would be able to handle all the demons Jaldabaoth had ready. He'd essentially taken the entire city hostage, so if we beat him here, killing me 1T make those demons disappear, you know. One word, one mental command from me, and they spread all over the city. Of course, there aren't that many, so you can probably handle them, but who knows how many casualties will result. But we don't have any guarantee that you keep your word. No, even Jaldabaoth couldn't guarantee that he would win if he kept fighting the super elite warrior Momon, so I'll completely withdraw. Please forgive me, and at least don't chase after me. If not, I'll take you all with me. How convenient. But if the capital was taken hostage, they were on equal terms. I see. Everly respected Momon from the bottom of her heart. He read between the lines, and that's why he took the proposal. No, taking it was probably the only option he had. Now then, it seems like the gallery has gone quiet, so I'll take the liberty of withdrawing. It's too bad we won't get to complete our objective of recovering that item. I pray you and I never meet again. Yeah, I hope the same, Jaldabaoth. It seemed like Jaldabaoth smiled beneath his mask. As soon as the maids had gathered around him, they all disappeared at once using a high-tier teleportation. Raygon Everly floated up into the air to see what had become of the wall of fire. There was nothing left of it. All she saw was the night view of the city. It seemed more troubled than normal. Maybe the curtain has fallen on this disturbance for now. But what will the outcome of so many casualties and expenses be? A being called Jaldabaoth, whose powers surpass those of an evil spirit, the elite warrior Momon, who is equally powerful when the world finds out about these things. How will it change? Where are we headed? Everly shook her head to clear away the jumble of thoughts. They could take their time later to think about what would happen next. For now, she had more important things to do. She landed on the ground and spread her arms wide. Wah, she ran at full speed with a scream of joy. It could also have been taken as a battle cry. Her fly spell was still in effect, but running seemed more apt at times like these. She was heading toward Momon. Perhaps she startled him. He practically got into a fighting stance. Ignoring that, she leaped at him. It was like sprinting directly into a wall. But with Everly's physical damage resistance as a vampire, she was unharmed. She hugged him. You did it. You won. I wouldn't have expected any less. Sorry, could you get off me? He made the request in an even tone. She was clinging to him like a koala. He must have been feeling bashful. He could totally just hug me back. Everly was after something she'd heard about once. Someone had told her that some men worked off the post-battle buzz with the opposite sex. She was hoping he would do it with her. Everly glanced at Nabe, who was frowning sharply. Don't mind if I do beat you to the punch? She tried rubbing up on him a little, but it didn't seem like it was working through the armor. It hurt when she hit a dent. Momon sighed. Nabe, do you mind helping me put away my swords? Realizing her efforts had been wasted, Everly let go and detached from the tree that was Momon. Yeah, I should time my advances better. Now that Jaldabaoth has seen how strong Momon is, the chance he doesn't keep his word is probably low. But there are still other people fighting. We need to hold funerals for the dead. We can just give in to our desires in this situation. The demon battle was certainly over, but Everly's battle as a woman had only just begun. Running over the options for her next move, she looked up at the sound of metal clanging. There was a group running toward them. Adventurers, soldiers, and the captain of the Royal Select, and everyone else. Gaze of Stronov was there, as well as Lachius and Tina. Not only that, Gagarin and Tia were there too. They all looked a bit grungy. She sensed the struggles they'd gone through to get there. They gazed upon the aftermath of the fierce battle. Then they gasped and stared at Momon. Inferring what they were thinking, she whispered to Momon, "Sir Momon, proclaim your victory." But he didn't move. As she was wondering what the issue was, she heard him say in a low voice, "This is so embarrassing." That wasn't the response of an elite warrior. He sounded so ordinary that Everly broke into a smile. "You have to do it. You're the one who achieved the most. Please just resign yourself." He sighed. "Yeah, you're right, I should do it." Momon gripped a sword and thrust it up into the air. Arg. A moment later, everyone in the square raised their fists in the same way and exploded into a roar of victory. They praised the name of Momon, the hero who had saved their country. Epilogue 6 Late Fire Moon, September 8:45 a.m. The maids were lined up before Sebas. There were a total of 41 homunculi. In front stood the dog-headed head maid, Pestonia S. Puppy Dog. All the maids performing general duties inside Nazarick were present. "Everyone, this is a new maid who will be working for Nazarick. Pleased to meet you. I am Tsura. She bowed deeply, and the head maid greeted her on behalf of herself and her staff. They exchanged a few words, and Tsuka didn't seem particularly frightened. In the first place, besides the sewn-up scar down the middle of her head, her face was that of a gentle-eyed dog, and the maids behind her looked like humans. They didn't have scary appearances like grotesques did. Still, it wasn't as if her fear of others, due to her previous situation, had disappeared. The reason she was able to handle things had to be that she understood her circumstances. She knew she had to work as hard as she could. If I don't keep an eye on her, she might have a breakdown. While Sebas was thinking of her, the formalities ended, and Tsuya walked off with one of the maids. She turned back to look at him. When he nodded, she nodded back and walked on without turning around again. "Master Sebas, how much should we train her?" "Woof, please aim to have her pass as a Nazarick maid. Do, however, train her appropriately given that she is only human." "Understood." Woof. Her dog face warped to bare her teeth. It was the face of a predator about to tackle its prey, but her eyes were gentle. "I thought her being a maid was just a stopgap." "What do you mean?" Sebas responded, puzzled because he honestly couldn't see what she was getting at. "Woof, no, I mean I thought she would retire when you got married." "Woof, what?" Sebas's face twitched, and Pestonia's soft laughter echoed across the 9th level of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. It was late fire moon, September 4:51 p.m. Climb checked the time and whether Renna had a guest. Once he was satisfied there was no conflict, he opened the door to her room. Inside, everything was tinted red by the evening sun. His elegantly beautiful master was sitting in her usual seat. The light spilling through the window set her apart from her surroundings. "Welcome, Climb." He sensed peace rapidly returning to his tattered heart as it began healing in her presence. He hardened his expression before it could relax too much and walked over to her. "Okay, sit down, Climb." "No, that's all right, Princess Renna. I need to go somewhere following the demon attack on the capital." A light went on in Renna's eyes. She likely knew what he was talking about, as these were orders from her. He was supposed to guard the Wizards Guild because of a certain item. They didn't yet have a complete picture of the demon raid, but in one of the warehouses, they discovered a weird item. The Wizards Guild was investigating it now. The magic it contained was no ordinary spell. Combined with what Jaldabaoth had said, everyone was convinced this was the item they'd been looking for. For that reason, until the guild could assemble powerful veterans and decide what to do with it, they were stationing guards in the area. She sent Climb as one of them. It's awful that we can get the Eight Fingers to take responsibility for this. They were the ones who brought that item into the city. He couldn't completely suppress his disgust, even though he was with Rena. The item that had brought tragedy to the capital was found in a warehouse. That warehouse undoubtedly belonged to the Eight Fingers smuggling division. They should have been moving to crush the smugglers as soon as possible. But there was one reason they couldn't. Only a handful of people knew what it was. Intelligence leaked by Jaldabaoth played a role in the discovery of the item. That was why Rena had asserted that perhaps he let the information slip on purpose. He wanted to use humans to find the item his subordinates hadn't been able to. Since everyone found that argument compelling, everything was being covered up. So they couldn't use its discovery in an Eight Fingers warehouse as evidence. You Ray going with the captain, right? Got it, then standing is fine. So how are the citizens you saved? They were under the castle's protection until recently, but they have left now, right? The bomb she threw made Climax's heart leap into his throat. Oh, they all said to tell you how grateful they are. I see, so if I hurry I can still see them? No, you can He raised his voice, then thought, crud. He hung his head and quickly tried to recover from his earlier exclamation. They are all very busy. If you visited, I think it would take up too much of their precious time. I apologize for making your kindness come to nothing, but I would ask that you refrain. As he was bringing his head back up, he thought the expression on his master's gorgeous face would be one of discontent, or perhaps a childish pout unsuitable for someone her age. But the one that met him was neither of those. She was laughing, not just smiling, but laughing. He'd seen her laugh now and then. If he thought back to his most nostalgic memories, he could remember the twitchy way she had laughed not long after picking him up. But there was definitely something different about this. Before he could figure out what it was, her normal smile returned to her face. Well, then I guess I can go, huh? Seeing that she understood, Climb suppressed a relieved sigh. Actually, almost everything he just told her was a lie. He had heard hardly anyone thanking her. On the contrary, they blamed her, saying things like, why are we the only ones who got saved? All they did was grumble to Climb in their anger about their misfortune, the families they lost, the assets they forfeited. He took it, tolerated what was obviously simple venting, because he pitied them for having no one else to blame. And he wanted to punish himself for not being able to perfectly realize his master's wishes. Still, he fought demons to save these people despite the danger, and it hurt for them to say such things. The demon that had appeared outside the warehouse was on another level. It was too powerful for even Brain Unglaus to handle, but it had been heavily wounded. If it had shown up uninjured, the three of them would have surely lost. He learned later from Lachius how strong it was. He was thankful they had been as lucky as they were to win. After getting through that life or death battle, this abuse, he was used to being alone, but this was a different kind of pain. He was fine while the hate was directed at him. He was the princess's direct report, but nobody liked him, so they probably would overlook him getting harassed. If they met Rena, though, things could get hairy. If they turned their hate on the princess and insulted her, Climb would be forced to draw his sword. Okay, Climb, now I am going to be the bearer of bad news. Brace yourself. She silently closed her eyes for a few moments and then opened them. The captives you saved from the brothel with Sir Sebas and the others, they've been killed. For a split second, Climb didn't understand what she said. Then he asked hoarsely, why did that have to happen? From what he heard, they were going to shelter at the guardhouse for a little while. Then they would be transporting to Rena's domain. It was my fault, she said. At first I thought I would have some adventurers escort them, but then the disturbance happened, so I couldn't hire any. With no other recourse, I hired some mercenaries and sent them instead. She shook her head. No one made it. It's not your fault, not even a little bit. It's the ones who attacked them who were wrong. No, I should have been more careful. If only I hadn't let them go. I thought it would be dangerous in the capital with less protection during the disturbance. If I had sent you with them, maybe things would have been different. And what can I say to apologize to the adventurer who introduced those mercenaries to me? Tears formed in the corners of her eyes. Climax's chest felt tight. Maybe it was an error on her part, but in that situation, it was the best move. So who could blame her? You didn't do anything wrong, Princess Rena, he declared. She was so moved she stood and hugged him. He was about to put his arms around the small torso against his chest, but stopped himself. It would be entirely unacceptable to do that, But how in the world did the information get out? I have no idea. There was a period during the disturbance when the castle guard was looser than usual. Could it have leaked then? I had them leave right away, though he couldn't say there was no chance of that. Or rather, he was certain it had something to do with the guardhouse, given the fact that the rescued captives had been under its protection. Where were the corpses found? In the slums inside the capital, apparently. I don't know the details. And where are they now? Buried. Why, if we take a look at the wounds, we might learn something. Climb, please don't we can disgrace these girls any further. At least let them be at peace in death. Understood. Climb was struck by her tenderness. She did have a point. He was ashamed of his lack of consideration. He tried to go too far in the pursuit of truth, but don't worry about it. You didn't do any well what you said before. She smiled. Her eyes were red, but the tears were done falling. Yes, Climb broke into a smile. Sorry to hold you up, Climb. Do your best out there, okay? He regretted that her warmth was moving away from him and banished his desires. 10 late fire moon, September 9, 8 a.m. that day. The sky was truly blue. Its color seemed to go on forever, as if it was celebrating their departure. You going home? Everlai asked the man in the raven black armor. The crimson cape fluttered behind him. Going home was a strange way to put it, but that was how it felt to her, and the blue roses felt the same. Adventurers were often thought of as wanderers who didn't put down roots. However, some chose a city as their home base. For Momon, that must have been Erantle. I'd sure like to go with you. She couldn't believe how pathetic she sounded. It was just like a girl reaching out after her departing lover. At the word lover, she nearly writhed in agony. It's not a big deal. That was all he said in response. He is so cold, she thought to herself. She couldn't think of anything else to say, and a breeze blew between them. A man had been waiting for that pause and opened his mouth to speak. Everlai thought it was rather insensitive, given a man and woman were in the middle of a bitter farewell. But it wasn't as if they were the only two there. Nabe was behind Momon, and the rest of the blue roses were behind Everlai. The casters who would take Momon and Nabe back to Erantle were also present. We were extremely grateful for all you've done. Momon acknowledged Marquis Reven's thanks with a slight bow. His Majesty the King also wanted to thank you directly, but the name of the adventurer who had fought one-on-one with the enemy mastermind Jaldabaoth and repelled him had spread far and wide among adventurers, ordinary people, and nobles alike. It was no wonder the king would want to meet him. This sort of thing could even warrant the granting of a noble title, but Momon declined and didn't even try to have an audience. It probably wasn't a very appropriate attitude. To the nobles, who prioritized their honor, this behavior by an unknown person toward the king, someone above them, was arrogant. Some said he slighted the king. Among the adventurers, some said he was being incredibly rude. A few nobles even said that letting Jaldabaoth go was a mistake. They believed he hadn't been able to finish him off because the two of them were in cahoots. Marquis Reven silenced those, threatening them by saying, "Since I made the request to Momon, I'll consider those remarks a personal challenge. So what would you care to do?" To their denunciations, Momon replied, "I am an adventurer who took on a job and performed it. That is all." Didn't he warrant a reward from the king? And if he was going to reward me, I'd like him to thank all the adventurers who participated in the operation, which quieted them down. But that didn't mean the smoldering fire was extinguished. They just realized that insulting Momon any further would only injure their own reputations. Everlai remembered the explanation Lachius had given her. It wasn't hard to imagine that without Momon, the disturbance wouldn't have been resolved. More damage would have resulted. The reason only the Blue Roses and Marquis Reven were seeing off such a hero was because of the difficult position he was in. After this operation, people's opinions of adventurers, the king, the second prince, and Marquis Reven had improved. Their opinions of the nobles worsened. Of course, the nobles had an argument. The royal capital was the king's territory. From their point of view, as leaders of their own domains, they had no obligation to use their soldiers to protect the city, even if they felt like they should. It was natural for the nobles to prioritize defending their own mansions, given the possibility of a demon attack. After the disturbance, the nobles' faction firmly stated that any man who didn't protect his own domain couldn't be called king. The king's faction countered that their monarch had dared to lead the army, rather than go into hiding. So the power struggle between the two sides intensified. The ordinary residents of the city, who had nothing to do with the power struggle, harbored discontent for a different reason. Why did these self-important nobles protect only their own houses and not ours? Thus, those who had desperately fought were so lauded. This bothered the nobles. The vicious cycle eventually led them to turn their discontent on the adventurers. They only fought so hard because they were getting paid. According to them, Momon, the adventurer now considered strongest in the kingdom, surpassing even the other adamantites, was the epitome of this. No one would come to see him off.